even know. 6, 5?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6 of the Saturated Industries podcast, also known as the SIP. It's going to catch on. This one's about Captain America, the first Avenger. Yep. So before we talk about the movie, I just wanted to point out that I think it's weird that this came after Thor, because if you think about like the releases of the movies, it's very clear that they were going for which movie do we think is going to make the most money, or which movie is definitely going to be a hit.
Okay.
So like they came out with Iron Man first because that's probably the most relatable. Like it was set in the Afghanistan war, and it was and it had like Robert Downey Jr. was a long shot, but the character was like almost definitely going to be a surefire hit, and they had Jeff Bridges in there just in case.
Yeah.
And then Incredible Hulk was like the character,
very quiet
character that they knew they could depend on. The one that had his own TV show and like that was in the public consciousness. Yeah, right.
There'd already been some Hulk movies.
And between Captain America and Thor, there'd been a Captain America movie before. Like he was a known quantity. It wasn't a good one.
Was there a Captain America?
Yeah, live action Captain America.
I do not remember this at all.
Yeah, no, a guy with a crazy primary colored, get up and a shield and everything, facing an actual like prosthetic Red Skull monster. Like it was.
I do not recall this.
It was. I mean, it came out like the 80s or 90s. Like it wasn't like a smash hit or anything, but it was. It got all the way through production and was released.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
It's some studio believed in it at one point or another. And anyway, I definitely would have known. I mean, I know who Thor is. Thor, the Norse god of thunder.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't even know that Thor was an Avenger. That Thor was a character in comics as well, like in modern day comics.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who Captain America was. And Captain America is kind of the flagship of Marvel, of the comics. Like he's sort of always been the leader of the teams. Like
out of like besides probably the Hulk would be more well known, but then it would probably be like Hulk, Captain America.
Yeah.
Because before the Iron Man movies came out, Iron Man wasn't really like a household name like he is now.
Yeah.
Like no one really knew about him.
So yeah, I don't know. I felt that was worth pointing out, especially because the movie, like, it has the cold open in modern times, or well, we're not. It could be modern times, or it couldn't. But like anyway,
when they find the ship.
Yeah. And then it has the start of the movie, which is still fairly in the past, with what's his name Red Skull finding the Tesseract in Norway.
In a Norwegian church.
Yeah, on a wall on which there is a depiction of Yggdrasil, Thor's the tree that connects all the
and it's stored
realms.
In a box where it's got the Nidhogg, which is like the snake that wraps itself around the roots of the World Tree and eats it.
Oh, okay.
And that's like the coming of Ragnarok and stuff is like the Nidhogg.
So yeah, it's wrapped up in Norse mythology and protected by a Norseman played by Filch. And I don't know, like I guess it makes sense if they actually had the story written out and they wanted to establish Thor so that when we saw this part in Captain America, we'd be like, oh yeah, Thor.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it's still pretty strange, I think, that they would have chosen Thor, because it was still fledgling. Like it's hard. It's difficult to remember now. Like now they're like, we can have a movie of like a team of random aliens or like Black Panther, or we can throw anything out.
Yeah, a literal magician.
Yeah, and people will go see it. But back then it was like every movie could have tanked the entire thing.
Yeah,
like
so
every movie
it
had
was
the potential.
really important. Yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird that they didn't believe in Captain America, or that they thought Thor had a better chance than Captain America. Yeah. Especially because after seeing this movie, I think this is the best of the first phase of movies of the character introductions.
I enjoyed it. This film had some like standout issues for me, but overall, I enjoyed it again. Like again, going back to it, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
It was really funny.
Yes,
like crazy funny.
That I've forgotten about how much comedy is in it.
Like whenever I thought back to it, I always remembered it as like the somber one. I guess just because the color palette and because it's set in World War II, it just has this sort of dark tone. Yeah. But everybody is hilarious all the time. It's so strange, especially Cap, who would always be known as the wooden guy, the straight man, the kind of the foil to everybody else. He's so witty, and when you think about it, he's actually really witty in all the
films.
Yeah, he's a real clever, quick-witted guy, which is, I don't know, it's weird because I feel like he's always described not that way.
Yeah,
I guess because despite being a quick-witted, clever guy, he's still all about truth, freedom, and the American way, which people have decided is just too quaint for words. But
doing the right thing.
Yeah, always doing the right thing. But he's I like him. I like Captain America's character. He's probably my favorite Avenger.
Yeah, he's pretty good. It's a tough call for me, actually. I don't know if it would be my favourite.
Well, we'll go through. We'll do the Avengers podcast, and then we'll make an actual decision about that. But yeah, so it opens with them finding the captain's crashed ship and his shield in the ship, and being like, this one's waited long enough.
Yeah, this one's waited long enough, which I think is like a nod to the movie itself.
Yeah, it's like we put this off for far too long.
Yeah.
But they first imagine that this is a weather balloon, which makes me wonder: are there just weather balloons everywhere? Weather balloons are like.
I think that was like put in as like the canned response. It's just a weather balloon.
Why is that the canned response? Is America just inundated with weather? Are they just crashing in everybody's back garden? But yeah, and then it goes to Norway, and we meet the Octo-Nazis.
The Hell Hydras.
And they're led by Hugo Weaving, and
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving is sort of the leader of the bad guys. Tommy Lee Jones is the leader of the good guys, although so is kind of Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
And then the good guys have their sort of ace in the hole, which is Stanley Tucci. 3 characters who only show up for this one movie, all of whom I'm pretty sure have won Oscars. Each of those people, maybe not Stanley Tucci, but like Hugo Weaving for sure, and I think Tommy Lee Jones for something, some Coen Brothers movie probably. But like, just like top shelf, top drawer, the cream of the crop. Use them once and throw them away. Why is that the formula?
Yeah, it's get really famous actors, use them once, gone. They're dead now, or in space, or and
then like
just died of old age.
Yeah, and bet all of your money on the actor who like. Yeah, Chris Evans had been in movies before, but like nobody thought of him as like a movie star until he showed up
big
here.
Acting chops.
And it was the same with like Robert Downey Jr. almost had a career, then he went to jail, and now he's the biggest superstar in the world.
Yeah.
And then like Mark Ruffalo, like it's so weird that they pick the center line characters are these relative unknowns, or like guys who have a level of fame but they haven't quite hit that threshold yet. But then, for all the side characters, all the other guys, all
and
the guys
one-off villains,
like just the guys, or like the characters who get about 15 minutes, then they get shot, like Erskine, or the one-off villains. They cast the epitome of acting. Like he's incredible. I guess because all of the villains are written so badly, they need someone to inject it with a bit of pathos. But it's so frustrating that they have such incredible talent and then it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and they just no unceremoniously, like literally Stanley Tucci creates Captain America and seconds later he's shot.
Yeah.
And that's it. And he's so good. He's
really good.
The conversations with him, like the peach schnapps thing, he was like, no, you have a procedure. It's like, alright, we'll drink tomorrow. It's like, I don't have a procedure.
I'll drink now. Just send me some of that snaps. No, I drank too much of it.
More than I would like. He's so perfect, and he so sets up, like, you already know from the start, even though Captain America is this like eternal optimist and always doing the right thing, like I think some of the first lines he has is like, my dad died in the war, my mom got tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Like, but he says it with no sadness, like not that he's an unsentimental guy, but he says it with no like what's the word, angst.
Yeah.
Like he's just, they died, and this is my life now.
These are things that happen.
Yeah.
I want to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so you already know he's got a tragic backstory, and you see like, you get a scene of, isn't it Bucky walking him home? It's in a different movie, but Bucky walks him home from the funeral.
Yeah, that's in Winter Soldier.
So like, I feel like it's something that's not really touched upon, or nobody really talks to him about it, because like, what do you say to a guy who died 90 years ago, technically? But like, his entire story is just relentless tragedy.
Yeah,
it's just one after another. And Erskine is sort of the first on-screen thing. So like he establishes that like I'm an orphan. He's like an orphan from the start.
Yeah.
And then the first guy he meets, his sort of surrogate father figure, dies immediately after he achieves manhood, right? Like his sort of his metaphorical and physical manhood. Like, he gets injected with blue puberty. And like and then,
that's it. It's not a super soldier serum. It's blue puberty.
And then Erskine immediately gets shot.
Yeah.
Which is just not fair. And then like he comes to like a begrudging respect with Tommy Lee Jones' character.
Yeah.
And then he jumps on a plane, never sees him again. And he like falls in love with Peggy Carter, jumps on a plane, he sees her again, but she's lost her memory kind of.
So even more tragedy.
He thinks his friend is gone, so he launches a mission to try and rescue him, and he does rescue him.
No. He thinks Bucky's dead at that time.
That's what I mean by gone. Like, he's like, he thinks Bucky's been killed in action, but he's like, well, I'm still going to do something.
Yeah, I got to save all these other people.
Yeah, and then he actually finds Bucky, and he's like, oh my god, Bucky! And then they go on a bunch of missions together, and then Bucky gets killed. As far as he knows, like Bucky's dead. And it's just like, just endless death. That's all he
Everything in
has.
my life is doomed.
And yet, and this is what I guess I really like about the Captain America character, which, like, I don't think it's possible for a normal human being. Maybe there's something in the super soldier serum that makes him better able to cope with the maddening darkness that is his life. But, like, Captain America never loses it.
Yeah.
He just never loses it. He always holds firm. He always, like, he is the tree, you move, right? But, like, he's like the polar opposite, and it really informs the Civil War. Like, Civil War really is, you know, a lot of people think it's the actual Avengers too, but I think it really is the final act of Captain America's story, because, and it's also sort of an extra final act to Tony's story, because Tony is
it's about them too.
Yes, obviously, it's about the two of them, but it's like Tony has experienced all of the sadness. He's also an orphan. Like, he's experienced all the sadness of Steve, reacted in completely different ways, done nothing to really process it.
No.
And then
has PTSD.
And has PTSD
on top of it.
And externalizes it all, right? Like, so I need to control everything around me in order for the world to...
So that none of this stuff can happen again.
Yeah, none of this may happen, right? Whereas Steve is, no, I must do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever happened to me, that's in the past, it's beyond, like, I must now do what is morally correct.
Yeah.
And I know what that is because I haven't been... I mean, we're skipping ahead to Winter Soldier, but, like, he's incorruptible is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it really sets that up here, where he's just pure, and it's weird because they don't give any reason for it, you know? Like,
it's just who he is.
He's just a guy. Like, the first time you meet him, he puts a paper down, and he's this skinny kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Parents are dead, and he wants to go fight the war.
Yeah.
And that's
he's
like
trying his, like, he's trying to sign up again,
all these different places.
Again.
Yeah, and he's like, and it's such a, it's perfect that he's World War II, and I think it's World War II in the comics as well. Like, the first time he comes
initially,
around, that, like, the last time when it was that clear, like, it's never been that clear since. That, like, there were people who literally, if they were like, so he wants to get, like, his form stamped 1A or A1 or whatever, so he can go to the war. And I don't know what the actual classification systems was, but I know if you were to get stamped 4F, you're never going to war. You can't go to war. And I know that from Band of Brothers. It's not like I did research or anything, but, like, in Band of Brothers, one of the, like, little interview things that they have at the start of each episode, one of the guys said that there were people in my town who committed suicide because they were 4F. If they couldn't go to the war, they killed themselves.
Oh, wow.
And it was the same... There's a movie called Hacksaw Ridge, which is also about World War II, and it's the same thing where he says there's guys in my town killing themselves because they're not unfit for combat, right? So, like, this was apparently a phenomenon in America after Pearl Harbor. Everybody wanted to go to war, and when people couldn't go to war, they would literally kill themselves. So it was so crystalline, it was so pure, it was so clear, like, there's the right thing to do, and, like, the right thing to do is a terrifying, scary endeavor, like, you know, it's this, like, unbelievably violent thing that you must volunteer for, go through training and be brutalized in order to achieve, but something that was worth it to an entire generation of people. It was worth it.
This is the cause.
Yeah, and he's the last surviving member of that generation, and we don't actually see him get transplanted in modern day, but whatever, we'll get into that in Winter Soldier. But anyway, I just want to point out that I really like that about him, that, like, I read an article once that like, the main point of the article is that Captain America's superpower isn't that he's, like, really strong or fast or heals. His superpower is that he has the ability to make things simple. Yeah. Like, he can just simplify everything.
This is right, this is wrong.
Yeah, no matter how complicated you think this is, how much grey area you think there is, no, there's a right, there's a wrong. I know what the right is because I am from apparently the last generation of humans on Earth who could recognize evil effectively. But yeah, so that's the start of the movie. Jesus. What do you want to talk about? Sorry, I really like Captain America.
Yeah, I can tell. I just, like, a couple of questions. I don't know if they're touched on anywhere else in the Marvel Universe, but how, like, the Tesseract ended up on Earth.
Yeah.
Because the myth is, like, oh, it's the jewel from Odin's treasure room.
Well, they say that.
But we've seen Odin's treasure room. How did the Tesseract get from there to Earth?
And does Odin know it's on Earth?
Yeah.
Does Thor know?
How long has it been there?
Yeah, is like, how long has Thor been alive? Because probably hundreds of years, if not thousands of years or whatever.
Yeah, because they're Asgardians.
So, like, I assume things that were once in Thor's treasure room are still pretty important. Yeah. Right? Like,
although I don't think Thor knows what, like, the Tesseract is at this point. Because later on, he's like, I went hunting for some infinity thingies in Ragnarok.
Right, yeah, he doesn't know there's an Infinity Stone inside, but he knows it's, like, an incredibly powerful object of some description. And also, like, how did it get to Earth? Did somebody steal it? Did an Asgardian...
Or was it placed there for safekeeping? Something like that.
Maybe. Like, maybe it's got something to do with the war that was fought on Earth, but between the Frost Giants and the Asgardians for some reason decided to fight a neutral territory.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then again, that wouldn't, I don't know, because they were using the Frost box at that point, so why would they also be using the Tesseract box?
That's true,
yeah. No, that is, I wonder about that. Like, it's cool that they tied it in, that this is a gift from the gods, but if it's a gift from the gods, why was the nature of the gift that it be hidden forever? Like, and never do anything with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like, a lot of the locations of the stones are, like, hidden and kept secret because they're like, these things are too powerful, we gotta hide them away.
Yeah, but then, at the end of the Avengers, like, they take the Tesseract back to Odin's room, and then at the end of Ragnarok, you see that Loki sees that it's back in this room. So, like, if it was put on Earth for safekeeping, why is it now back? Why didn't they hide it on Earth again? Right?
Because it didn't work. Apparently, it was taken and used.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a good question. I wonder about that.
So we do, at the start of this film, we do see young, small, very, very small Chris Evans as Steve Rogers.
Oh yeah, and he looks so real.
It looks still really amazing.
I don't understand how they did it, because we were talking about it. I've seen them do that before. I've seen them put a person's head on a different body or vice versa, and it's never looked real. But for somehow they were able to do it. Maybe it's just because it was like set in the 40s or whatever, and they changed. They were able to fuck with the color correcting enough that like you didn't spot it.
Yeah, it is sort of like a washed out brownie sort of color palette for the film.
Maybe it's just that like Chris Evans himself, like,
looks like he could be a small guy.
He could be a small guy. Like, he doesn't have a huge jaw or like his face isn't like a beefcake face. He's just like a wiry dude.
Yeah.
But he packed on ridiculous amount of muscle, I guess.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's endearing. When they make him small, he's goofy and endearing. Like you understand
and
why.
In like a self-deprecating kind of way.
Yeah, like I get it. I'm small. I'm useless with women.
I don't know how to dance.
I can barely breathe. But yeah, and then he, like, we skipped over a bunch of parts. Like, before he even became, like, got the injections, he had to go to boot camp where we meet Tommy Lee Jones for the first time. Yeah. And he's just endless series of sarcasm.
Yeah, it sounds like he's just on set, like, ad-libbing responses to one-line responses to everything anyone says to him.
Like literally right before he goes on set, someone explains to him what's happening, and this is Tommy Lee Jones' reaction to the situations he's been put in.
And nearly all of them are hilarious.
Oh.
And that's the Strategic Scientific Reserve, or
SSR, Strategic Scientific Reserve, or the other way around.
Yeah, the sort of the American version of Hydra. They're like deep science military.
Trying to figure out a scientific way to get out of this, even though the guy the army wing guy who's in charge of it has no belief in it whatsoever. Like,
kind of, yeah. Well, at least for the super soldier part, because they do other things as well. And they've recruited a German scientist who's defected to the US.
Which is like one of the unexpected benefits for the USA of World War II. In real life and in the comics, it's German scientists.
Operation Paperclip or something, wasn't it?
Oh, there's actually a name for it, I didn't know.
Yeah, where they recruited loads of scientists after the war. Well, Paperclips I think is after the war. Okay. They went and found scientists and were like, you guys come to our side, don't go to the Russian side.
Oh, cool. Because those are the guys who helped them get to the moon, like built the rockets and stuff.
Yeah. So they have scientists. What's his name?
Erskine,
yeah. And he's the one who creates the super soldier serum.
And it's just Stanley Tucci being like really effortless. That kind of that thing that only he can do. Well, like only a certain amount of people can do. But it's like he's putting no effort into the performance whatsoever. But it feels like he's commanding.
Yeah,
everything.
It feels very authentic and real. It feels like that's how he is as a person.
Yeah, that's like another thing about this movie that. I'm not going to say that none of the other ones have it quite so much, but like definitely like Incredible Hulk didn't really have it, and Thor kind of had it, except for the fact that Thor was such a silly character and everybody played off him that way. Like this is just a silly lunk. Like in this one, everybody feels real, authentic, genuine. Kind of it's like a World War II movie, you know? Like I think this is a World War II movie, and here's a like literally as well. Even though they successfully create a super soldier. He's immediately turned into like a media puppet. Like he's literally straight away.
Yeah, he gets a super soldier form. He gets huge. He gets buff. He stops the Hydra agents from getting away with the
like,
super soldier
chases
serum.
him down on foot. Yeah.
Dives into the water, swims after his submarine.
A submarine that is powering away, and he somehow catches up to it, breaks it open, yanks the guy out, throws the guy from the water onto land,
yeah.
and is already up the ladder as the guy's hitting the ground.
Yeah, and then after all of that, Tommy Lee Jones still tells him he's not enough.
Yeah, not enough. You're not going to do it.
You're not going to do it. You still can't come.
I don't. And then, because later he's like, he's making fun of him for being a shill, like for being a war bond shill, and he's like, you wouldn't let him go to war.
Yeah.
And all he wanted to do in his entire life was help with the war.
I need to help with the war effort. You're not letting me. This is how I could do it. And you're still shitting on it.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, it's like Erskine is sort of his nice, loving mom, and Tommy Lee Jones is his distant, dickhead dad.
Erskine also sort of plays a similar role to the Doctor from Iron Man.
Yinsen, yeah.
Yinsen, so it's like sort of inspires, even though Steve doesn't really need inspiring.
Steve's already a hero inside.
Yeah, but he just sort of like galvanizes him. I mean, like, don't, like, he even says, don't be a perfect soldier, be a good man.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want this to do to you. Promise me that.
Yeah, and his dying act is to just press into his heart. It's like, follow your heart. Like, make sure you're always following your heart.
Yeah.
And it's a real, because Erskine's greatest fear, of course, was that, like he would inject somebody with the super soldier serum, and like they would all just become Schmidt. Like, this would just corrupt anybody, because absolute power corrupts, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's like the serum amplifies everything inside you, and that's why he needs to find like the perfect good person to give the serum to.
Somebody pure, somebody incorruptible, somebody like Steve. And so Tommy Lee Jones won't let him go to war. Yeah. And so he becomes this, like, I've punched out Hitler 200 times.
Yeah, and this is like sort of the low point for Steve, because he realizes that yes, it's helping, but it's not helping in the way that he wants it to help.
Yeah, he wanted to go over there and lay down his life because he has no right to do any less. Yeah, like his exact words, and it's you what to call it, like, relate to the frustration of that. I mean, I've never actually wanted to go to war, but I can understand wanting to help in any capacity but not being allowed the opportunity. Yeah, like that's there's nothing more frustrating, because there's nothing more frustrating than wanting to do the right thing, but they won't let you. Yeah, like they won't let you.
And he's been given all of these amazing abilities and powers, and still he's reduced to just being like a showman.
Yeah, and it's
where none of his abilities are put to good use. They could literally get just some random bodybuilder or someone who's just big to play Captain America. They don't need a literal super soldier.
Yeah,
We also see here Peggy Carter, she's introduced earlier in the film with...
she's the person who, like, punches out Hodge when he steps to her.
Yeah. She's like, step forward, put your right foot forward, punches him. Then immediately turns around and salutes. And every time she's on screen in the film doing some action, she's incredibly competent. Yeah. Like, with everything she does. Like, the first time we see her in action, she just has like a tiny pistol, the car's driving away, and she immediately kills the driver.
No, well, first they blow up the car next to her, and she just recovers composure instantly, takes aim, and kills the driver. Like that. Which is exactly why they blew up the car, to stop that happening. She's like, nope, driver's dead, fuck you.
She's incredibly competent at everything she does in this film.
And they never damsel her. Like, she never needs to be rescued. And she's also never, like, she never does anything that's beyond the scope of what a person who fucking dedicates themselves to something can do. So she's never Mary Sue. Like, she's like just somebody who trained for this, takes herself seriously, even if the world refuses. And, like, there's so much sexism. Like, it's just unrelenting. It's coming from everywhere. Even people who she would consider friends, like Howard Stark or whatever. Like, everybody's just, this is the 40s. Yeah, the 40s. Sexism doesn't even exist yet. This is just how the world is. Yeah. And it's just water off her back.
Yeah, and that's why we get her relationship with Steve, because they both have to struggle a lot in life to get where they want to be, and that's their like first like close ties together start forming there.
Yeah, they form. She kind of in the car ride with them. She's sort of waiting for a line. She's like waiting for him to like do something that any one of those other soldiers would have done, and he just never does it. And he literally says, like, I'm not even looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna wait. I'll just wait until I find the right person.
Yeah, looking for the right partner, I think was his line.
Yeah, well, yeah. I want to dance, but it seems so scary to ask somebody, so I think I'll just wait till I find the right partner. Oh, and then it keeps calling back.
Yeah, they keep calling back. There's lots of callbacks in this film.
Yeah, just adding to the tragedy.
Yeah, and another thing that happened that I had a little bit of a problem with for this film actually was, so we get to the SSR base and we have a training montage.
Yeah.
And then Erskine is telling Steve about Schmidt, and we have another montage. Yeah. And then later on in the film, there's the montage
Steve and the Howling Commandos.
Before that montage, there's the advertising montage.
Oh, the advertising,
on stage.
All the different states.
So I realize that there's a lot of time needs to pass in this film because it's a long war.
Yeah.
But there's too many montages, I think, and some of them, like the Schmidt montage, it didn't seem the best to me.
Oh yeah, it was clearly an
afterthought. Very stylized and lots of just like, just put Hugo Weaving's face and some fire in the
background. It was just like an unrelated shot of Hugo Weaving's face and then some
some
graphics that they came up with afterwards, because I guess they felt like Stanley Tucci telling the story wasn't enough, when I feel like it probably would have been enough. Just tell a story about it.
Yeah.
We'll get it. Like, maybe show,
or some actual scenes, some actual scenes of him, or like them working together,
or like they could have done newsreel footage, like showreel or whatever, of like here's some footage that we have of Schmidt killing people or whatever. But then also so they do, like, Schmidt gets the Tesseract and Zola, the giant face man,
the teaser for comic book Zola,
they're like experimenting with the Tesseract, and Zola gets it. Like, I was watching the doll, Zola turns it to 70%, and he says, like, it's stable at 70%, and he's like, I don't care about the stable, or I didn't come here to be careful. Turns it all the way up, and then over where Steve is getting turned into a super soldier or whatever,
70%.
The same, it's the 70%. Like, Howard Stark gets it to 70%, and he's like, and Steve is screaming, and everyone's like, turn it off, he's gonna die.
He's like, no,
and Steve's like, no, I can take it, I can do this. And so that was kind of a nice touch. Like, they don't really make a point of it, and I didn't know. I've seen the movie. This is probably the 5th time. It's the first time I ever noticed it. But they both kind of reached a threshold and chose to go beyond it for very different reasons.
Yeah.
But they both were injected with the same serum. Like, they are a mirror of each other.
Yeah. There's a lot of like mirroring in this film. Lots of like callbacks and mirroring to different things all the way throughout the film.
Yeah, it's like good storytelling. Like, it's kind of bizarre to see that in a film, but it's just like a solid movie. Like, because I remember my memory of this movie is that it was kind of boring, like kind of long, kind of slow.
Yeah, I had that same memory, but then again, going back to watch it, coming out of it now, I don't feel that way.
Yeah, it was really funny. The action was fantastic. It was kinetic. It kept moving from thing to thing. Like, I know there were, like you said, there were parts that dragged out, like, and they had montages and stuff that kind of exacerbated things. But something I really liked is that every montage seemed to end with a stinger. So, like, the montage of training kind of wound up with Steve diving on the grenade, right?
Yeah.
And the montage of the advertising campaign wound up with Steve doing the show for the USO out in Italy. And everyone's like, fuck off, get the girls back. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, whose idea was it to send them there?
Such a bad idea.
And what was the other montage? And then the Howling Commandos blowing everything up. How did that end? They were like,
I can't remember how exactly that one ended.
But anyway, it's like, I remembered all of those things going into the movie. I remembered those things, and I remembered them being like, like artificially inflating the runtime of the movie. But then when I saw them again on screen, like, aside from the fact that you could tell a lot of the Howling Commando montage stuff was like set pieces that clearly maybe it was like footage they shot that kind of didn't work or whatever, and they just cobbled it together so they'd have some more action to throw in. And like, aside from that, it's a really well constructed movie. It ended with the train. Sorry, it ended with the zip line to the train and Bucky died. So all of them end with a stinger of like, everything's going great. No, it's not. Like, there was no wasted moments, right? Like, all of even though there was like lots of dialogue and lots of drawn out scenes and lots of like people staring at things, like him staring at the locket with what's her name's face in it, Peggy's face, and then she had something else that she was staring at some point, like a news clip of him or something. There's like, it all mattered. When I watched it again, like I really felt every relationship. Like Bucky and Steve really feel like friends immediately.
Yeah.
Like straight away. They had such a rapport.
Yeah, so they we first get Bucky just after like Cap's gone to the cinema, being beaten up by a guy who was talking at the cinema, who seems like in the cinema they made this distinction that there's no other young fit men in the cinema. Just women, old men, and that's it. And then there's Cap
and this guy
who looks like much fitter than Cap does.
So why isn't he gone to war?
So why isn't he gone to war? Then Cap's being beaten up by him. We get the pulls out by the trash can lid as a nod to the shield.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, and then I can do this all day, which is again called back from the end of the film. And then we get introduced to Bucky, who just confidently kicks the guy's ass, tells him to get out of here. And yeah, they feel like friends. It feels like Bucky's saved his ass again and again and again. This is just like an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, he's just kind of lazily punching this guy like, oh, I guess I'm saving Steve again.
Yeah.
And they have this great kind of deprecating, like they're just constantly digging each other all the time. Like,
and Bucky's gotten what Cap wants at this point. Bucky's even in the like he's in the 107th. The division Cap requested when he was trying to sign up.
Was it?
Yeah, okay. And that's the division his dad was in as well.
Oh, I thought you said 101st. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like he's in like literally in the place in the army where Cap wants to be.
But Cap, even though they're always digging at each other and they kind of, nothing's sacred between them.
Yeah.
Like Cap he's never jealous. He's never envious. He never resents him for it.
He respects him for it.
Yeah, like
and he wants to do his part as well.
Yeah, it's a real, I don't know, it's refreshing because like put Tony in that same situation and it would just be 30 minutes of angst, you know?
Like why does he have this and I don't?
And it's a real, I can understand Captain America was always going to be the most difficult character to portray on screen because he is so
a paragon.
Yeah, virtuous, right? But I love him. He's so endearing. Like as a little guy, and then when he gets big, he just becomes this sort of endearing oaf until he sort of finds his feet. Like even when he uses his powers for the first time, he like runs into a bridal shop or something.
Doesn't realize he's going so fast. Can't turn.
Like he's much wittier than I ever remembered him being.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's just so quick-witted, so clever, but so understated about it, and that's the key. And that's where I think Chris Evans is really underrated. Because he's not showy like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
He's just plays his character, but
he's humble.
He's humble. Yeah, exactly. He's humble.
Even though he's like superpowered, he's still humble.
Yeah. And he's like, I really think Chris Evans deserves more credit because in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. inhabits Iron Man, like you couldn't imagine anybody being Iron Man other than Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. I think Chris Evans really inhabits Captain America. Like I know eventually he's going to die, probably in Infinity War, but like I find it really difficult to imagine like when they replace him with someone else, somebody really inhabiting that role the way that Chris Evans does, because
taking on the mantle.
Yeah, like even though Chris Evans is literally the most normal looking guy, and that's why he was picked. He's the most normal American looking dude you could find, and he has like the most normal accent and no real mannerisms, no kind of like wild Robert Downey Jr. tics like all the time. Like he is who he is, and that's who Cap is. That's who Steve Rogers is.
He's an everyman.
He was like almost born knowing who he was, knowing what he wanted, and going after it relentlessly until the day he is dead. And it's like I can understand why that would be difficult to put on screen from like a storytelling perspective, but I think they did a really good job here, and I think a lot of that is down to Chris Evans like just filling in that character.
Yeah,
you know, he has this comfort, even though like even the parts where Steve Rogers is really uncomfortable, like the parts where he hasn't kind of found his footing yet.
Yeah.
And Chris Evans has this comfort with portraying him.
There are some good scenes in here as well where he isn't happy with what he's doing, or like it's like the scene at the end of the USO show where he's like kind of depressed, sitting there just like doodling, realizing that like he's helping, but it's still not enough. He's
literally what is it, like a dancing monkey?
Yeah,
he literally draws a dancing monkey.
Yeah,
a really good rendition of it as well.
And then again, like you see him almost break when Bucky falls off the train, like. He's there hanging on, and he's just like, no, like this is my fault. Like I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and then later he finds out that he can't get drunk because he tries to get drunk to deal with the fact that Bucky is dead.
Sitting in a ruined bar with a bottle of alcohol,
and he's like almost in tears, or maybe he had been crying into your eyes.
No, I think he had been crying. Yeah,
and he like. You know, they have a short conversation, and then he's back in the war. You know, and it's like the rest of the movie. He's like this embittered, angry fucker.
Yeah,
he just goes back to work. You know. But I feel like he's always there. Like there's so much tragedy. It's weird how, again, Chris Evans just doesn't get enough credit because I feel like he carries it. You know, if you're paying attention, it's probably going to be the most difficult thing to portray on screen because it's a guy who's pretending nothing's wrong. Like it's a guy who's just doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
But carrying so much weight, so much death, so many everything he loves, everybody's ever loved dies.
Yeah.
Like period. They all die.
He just wants to do the right thing, and yet everything keeps going wrong.
Yeah, everybody he cares about gets killed while he's just trying to do the right thing. Even literally in his death, like in his last 60 seconds of life, he is kind of like trying to console Peggy.
Yeah.
Like it's the first time I saw this movie, I was like, he's just trying to keep himself distracted because he knows he's about to fly into his own death. But after watching it this time, I think he hears that Peggy's crying and he's like, let's talk about that date that we're never going to have as I fly myself into this ice pack.
Yeah.
Like he's literally in his final moments just trying to buoy her up.
Yeah.
As he's like
Paragon to the end.
Yeah, it's if you look at his, pay attention to his face, like there's tears there that want to come out, but he's not going to let them come out because he's got to be strong for Peggy to his final, literally to the last moment of life. He's got to be strong for somebody else.
Yeah. And even there, things go wrong for him because his what he's trying to say to her gets cut off.
Yeah.
Just before he gets to say it, or just before he gets through.
It's just endless tragedy. Just constantly repeating refrain of sadness, and yet such a fun movie.
Yeah, it was a really fun movie.
So, every time Tommy Lee Jones, and I love that. Like Tommy Lee Jones, in the same way as Erskine, it would have been really easy to have Tommy Lee Jones in the start of the movie, in the boot camp part.
Yeah.
Just you're never going to make it, you don't have what it takes, and even when he gets through, you still don't have what it takes. In a funny way. But they didn't. Tommy Lee Jones is running the war. He takes the rest of the guys who trained and he brings them over.
SSR gets retasked to start taking out Hydra.
Yeah, and he's still there, and he's still kind of carrying himself the same way, but he as soon as Steve starts doing war, he this begrudging respect develops between them.
Yeah. So we get that scene where Cap goes to Tommy Lee Jones and is because he's heard that the 107th from Peggy, he's heard that the 107th were hit harder than most and lost 75% of their number.
And he just wants to find out if Bucky was one of them. Well, first, that's all he wants. I just want to know, is Bucky dead?
Yeah, is Bucky Barnes' name on this list? And Tommy Lee Jones is I've signed 150 of these things today, and I think that name
sounds familiar,
list. And so then Cap...
without missing a beat, it's what about the rest?
Yeah, okay. He takes a second to process. He's okay, when's the rescue mission for everybody else?
Yeah.
And then we get the scene where we're not going to rescue him. We rescue him by winning the war. And then Cap's we can't do this. We have to go do something. So him, Carter, and Howard Stark steal requisition a plane.
It's probably Stark's plane.
It's probably Stark's plane. And then they go fly over enemy airspace. And at this point, we get Cap jumping out of a plane for the first time. But this time he's got a parachute.
Well, the other time... No, he has a parachute when he jumps out in the Avengers.
Yeah.
But in Winter Soldier, it's over water.
Yeah.
So, not that would work, but
well, he's got a shield.
Yeah, I suppose it absorbs all the vibration, but then wouldn't he just be compacted into the shield?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, no, I get it. It's
throughout this movie, we get to see him coming to terms with his abilities.
Yeah, it's an escalating series of feats.
Yeah. So at the start we can't even run straight.
Yeah.
Then we get to see the first time he throws the shield just out of desperation, and it happens to come back to him. He's I can do this now. And as time goes on, he gets more and more comfortable with the abilities that he has.
And yeah, when he's rescuing Bucky, and Bucky goes across the beam, and then the beam collapses, and he bends the bar all the way back, and he's well, I guess I'll try.
I'm going to try this,
and then he
realizes get the cut.
I can jump an entire building. Well, he makes it, so he must have been able to jump that entire thing.
Yeah, and then once we from that fake cut to, oh my god, he might have died, we go back to the base. And he's being declared KIA by Tommy Lee Jones.
Which is weird, because you don't declare someone KIA until you've recovered their dog tags. He's MIA until then, but whatever.
Yeah. And this is the scene where we get the respect from Tommy Lee Jones. You've done, you went against my orders, but you did good.
Yeah, you rescued all these people, and you stole a bunch of tech from Hydra.
Yeah, you've got all this awesome Hydra tech and knowledge now.
All this awesome Hydra tech for Howard Stark to fuck with in pure Tony Stark style.
Yeah.
Where he's he gets the thing in the chamber or whatever, and he's this doesn't seem so...
Doesn't look like much. Write that down. And during that, we get to see the first meeting between Hugo Weaving and Cap as well. Where they have their fight, and we still haven't seen Red Skull up to this point. There's been hints.
Yeah.
You see him standing for a painting, and there's red paint on the palette. but we haven't actually seen anything yet. And then we get it here, where Hugo Weaving pulls off a mask of his own face over the prosthetics he's wearing, I guess.
Which are also on his face, which, props to Hugo Weaving, that must have been uncomfortable as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they face off, and they're like, I mean, they sort of get to fight, like,
they like trade a few punches.
Like, but I don't know, are they equally strong? Because it feels like, you know, Cap hits your man, and he falls backwards. Then he hits Cap, and Cap blocks with the shield, and he gets like the impression of the fist. Then Cap hits him again, and he falls backwards again.
I think Cap gets knocked over at some point as well in that fight.
But no, because when he falls backward the second time, Zola pulls the lever, and they get separated out. And then he starts making the point that it's. I mean, I don't think that they actually knew fully. Maybe they did. I don't know how far ahead they planned this stuff. Like if they actually knew who Thanos was, but he starts going into how cosmic this is going to get, right? Like he starts going into, you're still at the level of a man, but you could be ascend, be one of the gods. Like this fight is, you know, like there's so much more.
And we get like the final transformation here as well of Hugo Weaving's character into the Red Skull. Yeah. At the start of the movie, he was just wearing like regular Nazi uniform. Yeah. And as the time went on, the Nazi uniform became less and less, and he looked more and more villainous.
More and more black and leather.
Black leather and red, like with red accents and stuff. And then we get the final bit here where he pulls off his face, and it's just the Red Skull with the long black trench coat, and like that's his like final transformation into the villain.
Because he's killed the Nazis who were sent to check what he was doing at this point. At this point, he's committed now.
Yeah, because Hydra wasn't it wasn't really founded by the Nazis. It's just that they were like, oh,
well, it was their science. It was their SSR, right?
I mean, that's what it says here in this film. But Hydra itself is a much older organization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I think like the idea here is that they were using the Nazis for their resources, and then once they were like, oh well,
we've gone beyond the Nazis.
We've gone beyond the Let's.
Oh, okay.
There's another point here that I have. Another thing that annoyed me of this film was some of the action scenes were a little gadgety, like filled with gadgets and things to do. Particularly the motorbike scene is what stood out to me here, where Cap is
he has all the James Bond stuff,
and he's just like, he presses a button, something cool happens. Goes back to him, presses a button, another thing cool happens. Press the third button, another thing happens, and so on for the action scene. Then he jumps into the base and presses another button, and his motorbike explodes. And it just seemed a bit like out of place for a Captain America film, or for Captain America specifically.
Yeah, what really bothered me about that part was that it went from like they're all sitting around a table. They're like, "How are we going to get in there? It's an impregnable fortress." It's like, "What are we going to do? Knock on the front door?" And Cap's like, "Yeah,
that's
we're going to go
do.
right with it." And then it literally cuts to him on a bike. Like there's not even like a scene of them with bikes in a forest
preparing,
or like, you know, show that there's a bunch of soldiers hiding in this forest, so they're later going to attack the base. It's just him on a bike, and then somehow all of the Hydra bikers are behind him.
Yeah.
So he's already gotten past their patrol, like, and they're like playing catch up. And then he does this whole gadget fandango, and then gets into the base and gets himself caught on purpose, like Loki's his way in.
Yeah, caught on purpose.
But then that part as well seems kind of redundant, because all of his dudes just like fire zip lines and
crash
into the windows, which is like, if you could do that, if you knew where the place was
and where the windows were.
If Cap was wearing a tracker, for example, and they were just trying to figure out where is Red Skull, and we're all going to drop in a Red Skull, and we're all going to fire at Red Skull. So Cap, like, that would have made sense. Yeah. But if Cap's just going in there and you're also going in there, why not everybody just go in the windows? Yeah. Right? And you don't have to worry about this part.
Or attack the front door with the regular guys.
With the armies who attack. Yeah, exactly. Like if the army, if the actual regular SSR army are going to attack this place, that I guess Cap sort of softened it up, but all he really did was kill all the bikers
and blow a hole in the door.
And he went over. Yeah, he did blow a hole in the door actually. But still, you got an army
and artillery,
holes in the door, and just like, I don't know. It was a weird kind of low-key plan of like, I'm going to get myself caught, and that's going to turn the tables. But it didn't really make any sense. Then he's basically in the something like so then he's in the base.
Yeah. Well, before that, we get the Bucky death scene, the train.
Oh,
the train
sorry.
assault,
yeah, way before that.
Snowpiercer, the prequel.
And shit. They like. Where was the rest of the team? Right. So like they all land on the train, and then Cap and Bucky go inside. and then they get separated, which was obviously Zola's plan, was to separate them,
Yeah.
and then try and take Cap by himself. And then,
Where were the rest of the commandos? Yeah,
yeah, right.
Like, did they all zip line down, or was it only Bucky and Cap?
No, there was a bunch of them.
Maybe they all went to different carriages.
Maybe, but then they would have known that something was going on and tried to fight their way to Cap, right?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, like, they also so they get separated. Cap has to fight this dude. Bucky's like uses up all of his bullets. He actually uses up a realistic amount of bullets, and
Yeah.
he's just out of bullets.
Yeah.
He empties a couple of clips, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna die now."
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. He's just hiding in the corner.
and then Cap like gets his way in, but then it turns out that the guy that Cap didn't kill for some reason didn't bother to kill the guy with the
gets
big
up.
guns. Also, didn't take his big gun to like go
Yeah.
help Bucky. Just use it to blow up the door and then go to Bucky. Whatever. Anyway, the guy comes back. Bucky picks up the shield.
Yeah,
For
so
the
we get the
one and
illusion
only
that
time.
Bucky could become Captain America at
Yeah.
some point.
And then gets blown out the train. Which like this device, this like Tesseract technology gun, like the level of damage it does varies wildly.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I think it destroys everything except, like, everything it hits. Like, people, they just evaporate.
yeah.
Like, walls and things, mostly they explode. The shield, fine, most of the time.
But
It doesn't even, like, scratch it. Then one of the, like, the final plane, the big plane, it shoots at, like, Cap's ship, that he's, like,
It
the
just
bomb, hits
taps
the wing, it cuts, like, a tiny little circle out of the wing, and that's it.
Yeah, it does a weird amount of damage to different
Yeah, a
things.
very variable amount of damage.
But yeah, and then Cap tries to get Bucky. He totally could have got him, but he didn't try hard enough, and
Yeah.
Bucky falls to his death.
Yeah. Yeah, his death,
Yeah.
in inverted commas.
Where I guess we'll have to talk about that when the Winter Soldier comes up. But I wish he hadn't been recovered by Hydra, and they just had him recovered by the Soviets. Like, and the Soviets,
Okay, yeah.
like in the comic, he was just the Soviets found him and thought, well, this is an American soldier that's not dead, so we could send him to kill Americans, and
Yeah.
he'll be able to fit in and all that. And then they just retconned that to be like Hydra's crazy container people,
Yeah.
full of like goop that we stole from Howard Stark's car. Whatever. But yeah, so Bucky's dead, and then Cap moves on very quickly from that because Cap's seen a lot of death in his life.
Yeah.
Everyone who was close to him has died, so he's pretty used to it now.
Yeah, he does blame himself here. We get the scene where he finds out he can't get drunk. His metabolism's 4 times faster.
Like, and then because that scene then goes into the scene where they're like, how are we going to get into this impregnable base? Like, this is the final base in the Alps. We got to get in there.
Yeah.
If they had, I would have liked the scene a lot more. I think if, like Cap's sitting there, he actually looks kind of sullen and a bit angry, and he's like, yeah, we're going to open the front door. Of course we are.
Yeah.
If he had done so in anger, right? Like if he had fought his way in and then like been a little bit out of control, like
Yeah.
just I think it would have made a lot more sense. Like, because even surely the Howling Commandos would have been like, why don't you just come in the window with us? This doesn't make any sense. Why would you go in this way? And be like, shut up, just shut up. I'm the captain.
This is my plan.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be explicit about it, but just make it clear that like Cap's maybe
sort of
not,
on tilt a little
yeah,
bit.
exactly, and he's maybe not thinking straight.
Yeah.
That would have been good, but I mean, it's fine. Like it works. I just feel like it would have added a lot more to the Winter Soldier, like the return of Bucky, if you saw more of Cap. Like, I know it's important that Cap be this paragon, and I do like that, and I do like that he never kind of lets it slip. Like, he's a sort of classic man, but from a storytelling perspective, like that's where it's difficult. I think that's where I can understand why they would be wary about making Cap front and center, is because it's very difficult to empathize with a character who just moves on.
Yeah.
It's just fine. Like, not like moves on. Like, I'm sure he carries Bucky, but like he
doesn't really show it.
Yeah, and he would never put anybody else in danger.
Yeah.
As a result, like because he's on tilt.
Yeah, because he always does the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Cap emoting. That'll be a big feature of any time we're talking about Captain America movies or movies that Captain America is an important part of.
Yeah. So the next film.
Yeah. So yeah, the end of the base, and he has a fight, and they basically Red Skull runs away.
Yeah, that's what Red Skull's been doing the entire time.
Pretty much.
Running away in more and more ridiculous vehicles each time. Like, the first time he gets into some sort of crazy rocket-propelled helicopter ship.
Yeah. And then the second time, so his like bomber ship, of which he says he has hundreds, have 8 back
Yeah,
propellers.
8 rear-mounted propellers.
Rear-mounted propellers. 2 turbines on the front.
Yeah, 2 like big air intakes.
Yeah, and then 2 jet engines on the back.
Yeah.
But they're not. They don't line up.
They don't line up, but they could still be connected. I guess
so, but that doesn't seem ergonomic. It seems like a wholly impractical craft.
Yeah.
And also
that contains flying bombs, flying piloted
bombs, yeah,
that are also rocket propelled helicopters.
Like, I guess it's very kind of 50s Flash Gordon-esque engineering, which as well. Sorry, at the start of the movie, there's the Stark Expo.
Yeah, the Stark Expo,
or like maybe
World's
it's the World's Fair or whatever it is. But you see Howard Stark actually had the idea for repulsor technology, kind of.
Yeah, the precursor to repulsor technology,
which didn't work because he didn't have the technology. Which actually, so you see in this movie, Zola. Sorry, by this time Zola's been captured and he's given up Red Skull, and they've made a deal with him, and then later he becomes Hydra.
Yeah.
Well, the giant floating head that represents Hydra in a S.H.I.E.L.D. base, because S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra, I forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so before that, they're like making batteries, I guess? Like,
yeah, they're
Tesseract batteries.
They're taking the energy out of the Tesseract and
turning it into something usable.
Storing them in these devices that Zola's come up with.
Which look exactly like arc reactors.
Yeah,
like they could easily be like proto-arc reactors.
The ones for the big bombs that they're putting in are these big circular devices that are all connected together and they have blue energy like slowly going around.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, they look
they're all segmented like an arc reactor.
And they look a lot like arc reactors. And at the end of the film, Stark gets the Tesseract.
And Howard Stark gets, and he gets all the Hydra tech as well.
Yeah.
Like anytime Captain America blows up a Hydra base, he's getting this Hydra tech. So it's like, and also, we've seen Iron Man 2. He had the idea for the arc reactor, but he didn't have the technology to make it work. Which actually, what happened to the Tesseract then? If he didn't have the technology, the Tesseract would make it work. Shit, that ruins the whole theory. Because I had this whole thing of like, he saw these batteries and he was like, they're going to be my arc reactor. But
unless
I
S.H.I.E.L.D.
don't have
took the Tesseract off him.
Well, he is S.H.I.E.L.D. He founded S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, but he leaves it at some point.
Oh. Damn. Oh, I thought I'd figure something out, but no, that doesn't actually track now that I've carried it through. What happened to the Tesseract?
Yeah.
Fucking MacGuffins. They ruin everything. But yeah, sorry, Red Skull's car, which we see for the first time when they storm. No, sorry, we see it ages ago.
Yeah, the first meeting between. Yeah, he gives it to Zola because Zola's like, "But where am I going to sit?"
Yeah.
He gives him the keys.
Scratch.
Not a scratch. Zola
is like the coolest vehicle in the entire MCU. Oh my god, it's so
insane.
Cool.
It's also the reason why the Red Skull loses. Because it's got a booster button and can catch up with the plane.
I think that's more that any car Tommy Lee Jones sits in automatically has a red button that you're not supposed to push.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Might be related. Like, I'm pretty sure as soon as Tommy Lee Jones, the actor, like sat down in that car and saw a red button, he was like, is this supposed to be Men in Black?
Yeah, but really, like, my takeaway from it is that lots of Red Skull's hubris is what's defeated him. He had this really flashy car, and that's how Captain caught up with his plane. And then he thought he could handle the Tesseract, and that's how he ended up in space.
But that's not the first time he's handled a Tesseract, because when he took it out of the thing in Norway, he was holding it in his bare hand.
No, he never took it out of the box. The first thing he took in Norway was he pushed open the tomb by himself, which is a show of strength.
Yeah.
He picks up the glass, fake Tesseract.
Yeah, and smashes it.
Then he goes to the wall, pulls out the box, opens it, and you see the blue glow, a la Pulp Fiction. And he's like, "Oh, you've never laid your eyes on it, have you?" And the Norwegian guy's like, "It's not for mortal men." But he doesn't take it out of the box. He closes the box. And then when he takes it out of the box with Zola, he's got a fancy clippy device thing, and he puts it into the like reactor.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So this is actually the first time he's handled it.
And as soon as he does handle it, though, he gets teleported.
He gets bifrosted into space.
Yeah.
It's it's the space stone.
Yeah.
So he's not dead. He's somewhere.
Like, I know Hugo Weaving's already said he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they can't bring the Red Skull back.
That's true.
Because, he doesn't exactly look a lot like Hugo Weaving. And yeah, like that would be.
Can you imagine if he
shows in Infinity War?
If he shows up in Infinity War?
God, that would be amazing. Like, because that's what I've been worried about this whole time, is that we're gonna get to Infinity War and it's gonna be Thanos and a bunch of Chitauri or whatever, like just Chitauri clones, mooks.
Yeah. Faceless villains,
and they're gonna have to kill like they're gonna have to find the kill limit of Thanos' army, and then like they're gonna it's gonna be a series of people punching Thanos in their own different ways, like with their rockets or with their powers or whatever, just punching Thanos, and like that's gonna be so boring. But like if Thanos has this entire time been collecting a rogues gallery, all like the villains, all of the people who we thought were gone, and he's suddenly able to just throw them out there,
or even if he gets all of the gems and even the dead villains, the ones we know are dead, they're like, now face your worst enemies.
Yeah, so amazing. Like face the man who, well, okay, he didn't personally do it, but face the man who took Bucky from you, you know, or like basically, or like took those 70 years of your life where everybody you cared about was taken. Like, that would be great. And like it feels like, you know, obviously they only got Hugo Weaving to sign a contract for one movie, but it does feel like they teleported him away because they fully intended to bring him back. Yeah, at some point. Like,
because he's the
villain. Yeah,
the villain from Captain America.
He's the anti-Cap. Like, he's the Nazi, the Octo-Nazi. But yeah, I wonder where he is. Like, because he's not dead, and maybe he won't come back. But like, so say he doesn't come back, but they did intend for him to come back. Was he teleported to Thanos? You know, like,
or maybe he ended up on that junk planet with like the Master
or Scarlet. That'd be awesome. He's like been fighting the Hulk this whole time. He's like good friends with Korg.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, because Thanos, as of the next movie, we know Thanos knows exactly where the Tesseract is.
Yeah. And
what it can do and what it's for.
I think he knows what all the Infinity Stones are for. And that's why he wants them.
But like, there's just, because Red Skull keeps making all these allusions in the movie to...
that he's seen some crazy future.
There's a bigger war, you know, there's more going on. Yeah. And I know that like, they would do that anyway. Like they would want that because they knew the movies are going somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'd be amazing if Red Skull knew Thanos somehow.
Yeah.
Right. Like if there was.
We're seeing visions of Thanos invading or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, we gotta stop him. This is how we do it. We gotta unify the world under our rule, and that way we'll be strong enough to stop him."
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. No, I wonder where he is. Oh, I'd love if he came back.
It would be an unbelievable reveal.
What a twist! Like, and if he does come back, I hope they never put it in a trailer.
Yeah, like, no, you can't. It would ruin it.
So that's the Space Stone.
Yeah.
Right. So what? The Time Stone is Sorcerer is Doctor Strange's stone. Agamotto. And then the Mind Stone is the one
from the Chitauri Scepter.
Oh,
that's in Vision's head.
The Power Stone is the Guardians of the Galaxy one?
Is the orb, yeah.
And then...
the Reality one is the Aether.
Oh, the Aether, right, okay.
From Thor.
Is that all of them? 5?
No, there's one more. The Soul Stone, which we don't know anything about
TBD? Yet. Okay. Soul Stone. So that would be the one that bring people back from the dead?
Potentially.
Probably. Oh, that'd be cool.
I mean, when you start having more than one of them, you can do a lot of shit anyway.
Yeah. God, I wonder. Yeah, I can't wait to see what that fight's gonna be like. Anyway, this is Captain America. He's fighting Nazis.
Yeah. The one thing you can't fight though is flamethrowers. The entire film, the only thing that can ever stop him is flamethrowers.
They trap him in a wall of flame. Although, I mean, it's pretty clear that he wants to be caught anyway.
Yeah.
But then it's so convenient that when someone they're shooting to kill. Like they're soldiers. Yeah. They're defending the door to their base.
His plan is to get captured, but these guys are trying to kill him.
Yeah, but as soon as he ends up in a no-win situation, suddenly all the soldiers are like, "Well, we got him. Let's bring him upstairs." You know, I think that's actually now that I thought about it twice in a row, that's probably the weakest part of the movie.
This plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and also the fact that the only thing that could have saved this plan would be if when Loki enacts an identical plan in the next movie, Cap's like, wait a minute.
This was too easy. Yeah, that would have been an amazing callback.
Something I do really like about Cap's plan and Cap in general not Cap, but like the movie in general, when he fights his way into the base and when he's fighting all the mooks on the crazy biplane thing, is none of the henchmen can stand up to him at all.
No,
right?
At all.
Like they kind of, it's something that like a lot of like superhero movies fall into the trap of because they need to create drama. Is like these people who have like preternatural powers, like just superhuman abilities or whatever, getting into fist fights with people. Right? You know, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but like it's just it feels like a crutch where like you need a fight to matter, so the bad guy's got to get a few licks in on the good guy, even though if you just stop for a second and think about it logically, the good guy is a metahuman, right? Like he's just stronger, faster, more agile. The other guy doesn't stand a chance. The other guy could be an Olympic level athlete and he still wouldn't stand a chance. He wouldn't come close to landing a hit on Captain America, you know? Like Captain America is probably like a fly. He probably sees the world slower than the rest of us, you know? And I like in this movie that like I can't think of a time when any of the Hydra guys actually land a punch on him. Like he just
like the only times it happens are when he's already doing something else and someone comes up behind him and punches him, but then immediately gets taken out.
Yeah, he like immediately just swings his shield and the guy goes 40 feet. Like he's just like a cannonball. As soon as he's going somewhere, he's like a cannonball. He goes through everything in his way, which I really like. It's kind of
again as well. Another thing is to him coming into his powers in this film. The physicality of him in fights increases as time goes on in this one as well.
Yeah, and as he becomes more comfortable with the shield starts to become
he starts off like when he hits guys they just, you know, fall over a little bit. Towards the end of the film he hits guys and they go flying.
Yeah.
And that like carries over into say Winter Soldier and Avengers and things like that.
It's a real it's like a kind of a subtle coming into himself where, you know, say a movie like Man of Steel, when he's learning to fly, they give you this kind of agonizing 15-minute leapfrog thing of like, I'm learning my powers and achieving. But in Captain America, you're just watching him. Like as the movie goes, happens, like over time he becomes more and more adept. Yeah, which is how it would happen, you know. And it's like it's not like over a few weeks. This is, I don't know when he gets his powers, but it's before America's in the war proper, and then it's like. He actually goes to war like towards the end.
Yeah,
it's like 1941 or something.
Definitely a couple of years.
Yeah, like
go by.
His powers. He gets his powers in around 1941ish, right?
I don't know. I didn't take note of the dates or anything like that.
Okay, but I feel like he gets like a couple of years. Like if you include the whole war bond drive thing, it's like a while between him getting his powers and him actually really using them for anything.
Time to become accustomed.
But yeah, so he gets onto this crazy 3-engined plane, kills all the mooks, like leaves the plane for a moment in one of the helicopter rocket pods.
In one of the bombs, which all have convenient names of where they're going on them.
Just so you know.
Flies his bomb, like he pulls the ejector seat of the guy who's in it, then sits into it without, when this thing doesn't have a seat anymore. Yeah. Like, that's a strange design choice that it would still work without the seat. And then flies
or
back
that it would have an ejector seat. It's a suicide bomb. What's the ejector seat for? If you're getting shot at, just die.
Just blow up. Yeah. That's a fair point. And then like circles the big bomber and then crashes back into the back of it.
Flies around the front of it for some reason. One, how does he go as fast as it?
Yeah, well, it's big. It's a big plane, I guess.
It's a big plane with 40 engines. But yeah, for some reason decides to fly around the front
of
it.
Just to let Red Skull know he's there.
And to give him a chance to shoot at him. Yeah. Then comes around the back and flies into the exhaust port. Yeah. And then climbs out, picks up a shield, and goes to fight Red Skull mano-a-mano. Yeah. And they finally get to actually fight, both using their powers. Nobody's pretending. Yeah. Everybody's going 100%. Yeah. And he kind of beats him. Like, you know, Red Skull's like because the Red Skull tries to fight him, can't, picks up a gun and starts shooting at him. Yeah. And then loses the gun, and then they're fighting some more, and then he gets knocked into the Tesseract chamber. And then
like Tesseract energy's going everywhere. Then eventually the Tesseract gets knocked out.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, I'll just pick this up, and somehow
I'll just pick this up because this is a good idea. Yeah. And then he gets teleported into space.
But it looks, before he gets teleported, it does look like it's like burning him or like destroying him.
I think it definitely doing something, because it does burn through
the gloves and stuff.
The gloves, and then through the ship and falls into the ocean.
So it's just pure, like, it's like radiating heat and energy at all times. Huh? Yeah. But yeah, beats him, and then we get the kind of culmination of the tragedy of Captain America, which is that not only does everyone he love and care about have to die, he has to die.
Yeah.
Which it's one of those kind of conceits that they do, like the tragic heroic sacrifice of like, there's no other way to solve this. I must crash this plane.
That's like the major complaint a lot of people have about this film is, why couldn't he just land the plane?
Yeah.
Or why couldn't he do this? This time my take on it is, like, I kind of understand, like, he's in a plane filled with unimaginable powerful bombs.
Yeah.
Most of the engines have been destroyed of this many-engined plane. And if he keeps going, he's going to land up on land where there are people.
Yeah.
And so, like, if he crashes, even if he crash lands on land or, like, safely crash lands, the bombs could go off.
Yeah, I guess I would have, if they could have even, if, like, what's his name, when he hit the autopilot, if he could have also, like he did back in the base,
armed the bombs,
flip the thing and press the button. It's like, no matter what, these bombs are going to go off in this amount of time.
Yeah, or
I know he couldn't do that because they have to find the plane 7 years from
now.
Now. But, like, if there was any way he could have made it so Captain had no choice.
Yeah, or something to tell us that these bombs, like, because I just inferred that the bombs could go off.
But the thing is, like,
something to infer that.
Yeah,
like, or something to tell the audience that.
But the problem is, I don't think you can infer that because one of them gets launched, Captain America ejects the guy,
just falls away,
and then he like flies the thing back into the ship, and it still doesn't explode.
That's
so
true,
like. What blows it up? Does the guy have to fly towards the ground and in the moment before impact hit a button? You know what I mean? Like the pilot of the bomb?
Yeah.
I don't know what it takes, because if it's not front, like pressure on the front of the bomb, what is it? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's fine. Like the thing is, I think again, Chris Evans sells the shit out of this scene, because like you get this moment of he gets on the radio and he's like, at the start, he's like, what do I do? How do I solve this? Like, how do I work the problem?
Yeah.
Is there any way I can land this thing? Like, and she's like, I'll get Howard or something. And like, you see in the background, Tommy Lee Jones kind of ushering the random Howling Commando, like, we're going to leave now because he's not getting out of this.
Yeah.
And Steve, at the same moment, it kind of cuts back to him, and he's having the realization.
Yeah, he sees the readout of the engines. They're like all red.
Yeah.
Things are going wrong.
And it's like, I'm not a pilot, and I'm just looking at this, and this is like gibberish to me, but I know this plane isn't going to make it very far.
And he sees the radar where he's like, I'm over water now.
Yeah.
And you see land like slowly approaching.
And it's like, he knows enough, he's looked at enough maps in his life that he knows, I'm like over the Arctic right now, but North America is actually very close to the Arctic if you're flying down from the north.
Yeah. And
so he's like, I can't land it because I'm not a pilot, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to crash it. And like, even, I'm going to totally give it a pass, even if that doesn't make any sense, that he wouldn't even try and put the landing gear down. But like, just for this scene of him talking to Peggy and buoying her up and being like, I gotta get a rain check on that date. He's like, what about 2 weeks from Tuesday?
No, she actually says a week next Saturday.
Yeah,
at
like
this place,
8 p.m. sharp. Don't be late. And like, I don't know how to dance. I'll teach you how to dance.
Yeah, we'll play something slow.
Get and play something slow. I wouldn't want to step on your. Oh God. Oh, it's just so good. Like, and it works so well because of everything that came before. Because there's
been a lot of tension slowly building up between Peggy and Steve throughout the film as well.
Yeah.
That we sort of haven't gone through all the different scenes where it's happened. Like, she shows up there, like when he's recruiting the Howling Commandos for the first time, he's in a bar and he's like, you want to go back to the war? And they're like, yeah, let's go back to the war. And then she walks in and the bar goes silent because she's wearing the full red dress. And then she like, Bucky's like is hitting on her.
Yeah. Well, Bucky's doing is like, usually this always works, Bucky routine.
And she's responding to Steve.
Yeah.
And it's just like been slowly building up throughout the course of the film, and then we get this tragic ending.
Yeah. Because it's they have a real like adolescent romance where they're kind of like they're
they both like each other, but they're tiptoeing.
Yeah, exactly. They're tiptoeing around it a bit, and like they're being careful with it. You know, it's like there's something precious here between them, and they know it.
They both don't want to lose it, or both don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, and then they never get a chance. You know, like it's taken from them.
They have their first and last kiss on the hood of the car.
He doesn't get the kiss from Tommy Lee Jones.
No,
so, R.I.P. And then he's dead, and then it's like fades out, but then the music swells and you see the kids with the Captain America shield. They have that kind of Last Jedi ending of he has inspired the world. And it's kind of like in this is sort of the divergence point for the MCU versus like America in real life, is what inspired America to be like the American ideal, the dream, is Captain America.
Yeah.
Is like, instead of it just being winning World War II, it's actually that Captain America won World War II for us, and so he's the hero.
That's how it's spun, at least.
Yeah, he's the example, and then you kind of understand why. I don't know why the first guy didn't notice, but the second guy in the ship at the start of the movie goes,
oh my god!
Get Washington down here! Like, this guy's waited long enough. Like, he sees the shield and he's like, that's Captain America. Like, because every kid would know. Like,
another great thing that happened was just like a callback between the end scene, the tragic scene between Cap and Peggy, was that Cap was like, this is my choice, which is something Peggy said to him about Bucky, being like, respect his choice. Like, he did this.
Yeah,
like
he chose to go on the mission. Yes, he died, but he chose to risk his life.
It's not your fault. And then he's saying that back to her.
It's just such good writing! Oh! Who wrote this? Why isn't this person writing them all? Although, saying that, all the Captain America movies have fantastic writing. Like, just stellar. Like, there's none of the other MCU movies have as much emotion as the Captain America movies.
Yeah.
Just like
Iron Man 2 should have, but then didn't.
For some reason it just didn't land. But none of them all of them are fun. All of them have great action. All of them like tend to have like good pacing and just like be a great experience to go see in the cinema. But Captain America has a heart. Like, if you pay attention and you're willing to actually give it a chance, and especially in Winter Soldier, I didn't even notice. I read down there's like a Winter Soldier callback in this movie, or like a Winter Soldier setup in this movie. I can't remember it now. But anyway, it's like they're just tied together so well, and the character grows in such a like logical, consistent way.
Yeah.
And even like this movie coming into the Avengers, it's so like deftly handled, because he wakes up and he's in like an army hospital or whatever, but he's not really.
Yeah, a fake hospital.
And like they went through the trouble of building a fake hospital, but
having
nobody,
like fake buildings in the background and everything.
Yeah, but nobody thought to like check the date of the radio thing that they put on, like You know what date Captain America died, right?
Yeah, like, so just pick one slightly.
Any game after that date's fine, But yeah, so they send in, it's like, and it's so subtle. I love how like, so he's like, where am I? And she's like, oh, you're in the Shield Hospital.
Yeah, you're in New York.
Or SSR, yeah, and he like takes a look around and he's listening. He's like, where am I really? And immediately like he's like coming up and he's intimidating her, and she's got a little button. Kind of like
I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, she had a little button making a red light that she was pressing, and it's just like Black Widow's when she was with the Hulk. Yeah. And she's like, if something goes wrong, and suddenly you get like the wide shot of like 100 guys surrounding the place. I don't know what they were planning to do if he hulks out, but whatever.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, no, she had like a little like panic button, and then the two guys come in. Two guys is going to handle Captain America. And he throws them through the walls. But anyway, this scene. This is actually like, there's a gut punch when he's saying goodbye to Peggy without saying it and crashes. But then he has this scene where he wakes up and like escapes what I guess he probably assumed was like a Hydra base, but then turns out he's actually still in New York, and he runs down to Times Square and he's like, I'm in New York?
And there's crazy screens everywhere.
And it's like, well, this is a very different New York. And then all the SUVs show up and Nick Fury's there and he's like, sorry, hands up, that was the wrong thing to do.
Nick Fury shows up looking villainous.
A little bit, all black with an eye patch. It's like, couldn't look more scary. But yeah, no, it shows him is like, sorry, we thought we should ease you into it or whatever. Yeah. And then Cap kind of has nothing to say, and he's just looking around. He's
and Fury's like, are you going to be okay?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I had a date. And it's a great moment. Oh my god, it's like such great writing. What a great fucking way to end the movie, because the whole movie, aside from all the other stuff that was going on, it was really about him and Peggy, and they not like. Whoever wrote Winter Soldier knew that enough to have him visit her in the hospital, and then whoever wrote Civil War knew that enough to make sure that basically her death is the trigger for Civil War. Like she is her death is what kind of galvanizes him. Well, like him hearing her like granddaughter, grandniece or whatever talk is what kind of galvanizes him to like, no, I'm not gonna. But her death is what kind of releases him from the past. He's like, now I'm part of this world, and this world is like changing rapidly.
Yeah,
and stuff
she was literally his last link.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry, it's just going back to the scene. Like he thinks he's escaping, but actually he's still in New York. And then they come and they're like, no, it's okay, you're in the future. Sorry about that.
But sleep, Cap. 70 years.
70 years, and and he's just kind of looks almost to the camera, just kind of off to the side. He's like, I had a date. And it's such a sad line. It's so like, oh my god, like you've already been punched in the gut, and now someone is just kicking you to your knees. But then, for some reason, they decide, no, Captain America! Like they just start playing the theme music, and like they start hitting you with like that crazy.
And we get the title card.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
At the end.
At the end. No. So they swell up the Captain America music. Like they give that line about a second to simmer, and then and they start showing like the war propaganda placards and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's the whole thing. Like they do the whole cast and crew, and then at the end of that, you get the Captain America. And I think they did a kind of Dark Knight thing where they just put the title at the end of the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's one change that I would love to make to that movie, it's just because what they did, they actually said I had a date and then it went to black, but it only went to black for just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
If they just given that a sec, or even just went to black and then Captain America, the first Avenger, and then play the music, you know, and then kind of like, okay, now the movie's over now, but just give that a minute to like
give it that time to settle, because
that's when he becomes the first Avenger. I had a date, so like everything I had was taken from me. I will have my vengeance. Yeah, but shit, great movie. God, I love that movie.
I did not like it I don't like it as much as you obviously do, but I like it a lot more than I remembered I did. Like coming back into it, it was a lot. Yeah, I perceived it as boring, or I remembered it as being boring, like we talked about, and then now it seems a lot better, a lot more put together than I remember it.
Do you have any more like anything else kind of occur to you about it?
No, nothing like too huge. Just like random questions like the Vita Rays, what do they do?
Yeah, what do Vita Rays?
How are they? How does the inclusion of them stop things like the Hulk and Abomination from happening?
Yeah. Well, I guess in the Hulk they tried to use gamma rays to achieve the same effect. Have they just lost the technology for Vita Rays or something?
I don't know. Yeah, other than that, not much. We can talk about the one shot as well, the Agent Carter one shot.
Oh right, yeah, sorry. Peggy Carter is working at SSR. Apparently, it's pity because she's in grief.
yeah. It's after the war's ended. It's been over a year. She's basically works there like decoding things instead of being a field agent. Yeah.
And her office is run by like a sexist dickhead, basically.
Yeah. That's also the tone for the Agent Carter TV series.
But so they have the like. I'm not sure what they do exactly. I guess they're out tracking important things going on.
Yeah, so I looked it up. The Zodiac is a liquid chemical weapon.
Okay.
That's extremely dangerous.
Right. So that's kind of their main concern going into it, and their protocol is like they get a kind of bat phone call.
Yeah.
And everybody stands up, puts their briefcase on the table. The guy takes the details of the mission and then chooses people to go on the mission.
Yeah.
Which kind of something about the formality of it makes me think that people die a lot doing this work or whatever. Which, when you see what Agent Carter has to go through to get the Zodiac, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then the 3 people, like it suggests we send 2 agents, he sends 3.
Yeah. And
then 3 people come back being like, oh, they shot up our car. And then they all go out to the bar and ask Peggy Carter to stay behind.
Finish and do all that paperwork I left on my desk.
Yeah, do the
probably
paperwork.
my job.
And then the phone rings again when no one's there. Why isn't there someone always there to answer that phone if it's so important?
Yeah, it seems like really important. Like that they would have like a night manager or something whose job it is to answer. And then, of course, if in their minds they were thinking, well, Peggy can answer the phone, then that wouldn't make any sense that they get angry at her for answering the phone.
Exactly,
later. Yeah. But yeah, she decides to take the mission on which they recommend sending 3 to 5 agents.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah.
Yeah, that scribbles it out.
I'll just bring my briefcase full of toys.
Yeah.
And uses once again the fact that men have no respect for women in this
to her advantage, yeah.
But to take out all of the guards kind of piece by piece.
Yeah.
And then recover. Like there's not much, I guess, storytelling going on.
Yeah, it's just an action one.
Except to kind of establish her as like her final line of as like always, I've never needed your help. I've never needed your help. That kind of.
This seems more like it was. Like, I guess maybe I don't know the
like timings.
Yeah, it seems like a short pilot for a Peggy Carter series.
Because at the start of the series, is she already running S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No, she struggles Like at the start of the one shot, she's struggling to get missions. Like they're never picking her. They're always like they've got her on desk duty basically.
At Shield?
No, at the SSR.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know where the timelines of the one shot in the show or how canonical they all are together.
Right.
But she, like from what I remember, she's still struggling to get missions, and then she stumbles upon something going on, and she can't trust anyone, so she teams up with Howard Stark and Jarvis and some other people.
Okay.
And yeah, and then like eventually at the end of it, like it all comes out that everything she did was amazing, and then people start respecting her a bit more.
It's weird that like this is the fourth movie in
Fifth?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the fifth movie. Sorry, in the like first phase of the MCU, and the main criticism to be leveled against the entire Marvel universe so far is that like women are completely underrepresented.
Yeah.
And like there's
even still.
Oh, definitely still. Like there's still there still hasn't been a female lead.
Yeah, there still hasn't been like a Black Widow movie. Like a hard spy Black Widow movie would be amazing.
Yeah,
but
it'd be incredible. And I mean, there's going to be Captain Marvel, I guess, next year.
Yeah.
Like in between the Infinity movies. But yeah, so that's been like the main criticism. And of course, their kind of comeback is always like, we make the movies that the fans want, which
if you made a Black Widow movie, people would go to see it.
Everybody would go see it. But it's so strange to me that like that same studio that seems to have no respect for women or like the female market share, would make Peggy Carter, or would even just make this Peggy Carter short, which is incredible. Like it's just, and also the character of Peggy Carter in this movie, like I said, not a Mary Sue, never damseled, 100% competent, 100% capable, and like she just has a relationship with a man. Like he never needs to rescue her from anything. Yeah. He never like he never needs to help her career. Like nothing she does in this movie is sexist. Like there's no like she's treated like and also it's this movie like her character isn't all about fighting sexism. You know, like everybody is treating her with like a complete disrespect, but she's behaving in much the same way that I would imagine a 1940s woman would behave, which is to just let it happen. Yeah. You know, like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, I'm
just doing her job.
Yeah, I'm just going to do my job anyway.
Like in many ways, she's a mirror for Captain America. Yeah. It's like you said, actually. Sorry, when they were in the they realized in that car journey together they had this sort of mutual understanding of the world.
Yeah, this common ground, the same point of view.
Yeah, and so in many ways they were parallels of each other. You know, like she was sort of feminism and he was superhumanism. And then they have this short where like Captain America doesn't feature, and except for like a picture of him.
Yeah, and she's known as his old flame.
His old flame, but like she just carried the. It's never. She only ever reacts once, which is when they say that to her, like, you're just his old flame. They gave you this job because you're grieving, and she's like, "How dare you?"
Yeah,
and it's completely justified, and you can totally like. I don't know, you can totally empathize with the character because you know as soon as you stood up and said how dare you, you've just given it to them. Like they're immediately like, yeah, she's a woman. Oh, I knew she had ovaries. Like it's so my heart's breaking for you. Like you had to do that. But you can totally I would have done it. You know, like of course, how dare you. But so what I'm saying is that this was made with such an understanding of the problem. Right?
Yeah,
of the very problem that they themselves are.
Yeah,
you know, like
they themselves have.
Yeah, like that they themselves like are an embodiment of the very problem that this character that they so lovingly and perfectly represented is fighting against. Right? Like they made this character who is like the embodiment of feminism without being like a feminine, without being like a I hate men feminism. Like she's still feminine, like she's still a woman, and there's no agenda behind what she's doing. She's just trying to be a person, like be a person in the world, be of use, be help to society, but everything is against her.
Yeah.
And every part of her story is attempting to show how capable she is and how being a woman is of absolutely no consequence. Right? And yet, made by the same studio that won't give a woman a movie. What are you doing? I don't understand. It's like, and you buried this in like the fifth movie of your phase one. Like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so far there's been no one else really.
That's so bizarre.
The closest would be, I guess, Pepper, because she's
But everything's
CEO.
everything's kind of given to Pepper by Tony, I feel like. You know, like he gives her the CEO position and he's...
But she gives it to her because she is doing
She's
it
better
already.
at it than he is, yeah. I don't know, it's just like a really weird, what's it, like hypocrisy or
Yeah.
paradox or something, like, it's sad.
Yeah.
Like, especially because I have, like, that short, of all the shorts up to now, like, we'll do each one, all the one-shots kind of, like, by themselves, but of all the one-shots so far, that's the best one-shot. Like I like The Consultant, but it's just a joke, you know?
It's just a joke.
And I like a funny thing happened on the way to Thor, but again, it's just a joke.
Yeah, it's just a show Coulson is actually competent.
A badass, yeah. But this is like, you know, a nice little contained 10-minute story.
Yeah. It's also, I think, the longest one shot by a long shot.
Yeah, it's probably because it's kind of a backdoor pilot to Agent Carter.
Yeah,
like
it's gotta be.
They knew that, yeah, we're gonna make this show. I guess maybe Agent Carter was them testing the water for like a female-led franchise thing. But if that is the case,
Agent Carter had a lot of problems.
Yeah,
that had nothing to do with being a female lead.
I don't know. I thought it was critically really well received.
Yeah, it was like the first series was pretty good, but then the second series I didn't like it as much at all, and then I guess it just didn't get renewed.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But anyway, Captain America, we've got to put it on the board. Right now, do we have Iron Man and Thor in a tie?
Yeah.
Okay, so Iron Man and Thor are tied for first.
Then Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2, then Hulk. So where would you put Captain America?
I would... It's a tough call. I don't actually know where I'd put it. I might put it after Iron Man and Thor. Because I did really enjoy both of those films.
We might have to start two separate tables.
Yeah, we might have to start our own separate lists. Because I know you're going to put it first.
Definitely. Okay, so wait. How did we end up with Iron Man and Thor as joint first? Was that because one of us thought Thor was better?
Yeah, I think you thought Thor was better and I liked Iron Man better.
Okay, so let's...
fully diverge our lists.
Yeah, we'll just have two separate lists, and then we'll see how they line up at the end. That's right here. Okay. Sorry, this is an actual physical whiteboard. Okay, so my list at the moment would be Cap, Thor, Iron Man 2, and Hulk. And yours?
Mine would probably be Iron Man, then Cap, then Thor, I think, then Iron Man 2 and Hulk.
Alright, so at least we're both agreed Iron Man 2 and Hulk were the worst so far. I feel like they're just going to keep getting pushed down.
Pushed down, yeah. Especially because as we go further, we'll remember them less and less.
Yeah.
Because Iron Man 2 had so many good things,
Yeah.
but then just didn't land.
It was all there, but yeah, it didn't work. So yeah, but we're both. Oh no, we're not. We're actually very different because like Cap Thor, Iron Cap Thor. It's almost inverted.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, it's a tough call for me for my first three. Like the Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor are like the really solid introductions to three of the pillars of the Avengers.
Yeah.
So they're all good, but they're all good in different ways. So
I guess it's down to what you want out of a movie.
Yeah, so it's a hard choice for me to pick which one's the best.
Not for me, Cap's the best. But yeah, so
next week is the Avengers.
Yes.
Yep.
The Avengers.
Avengers Assemble. Which actually we forgot to talk about the teaser, the post credit scene.
The post credit scene was a teaser for the Avengers.
Yeah,
which was really good actually, and it didn't have that. So I guess it predates that.
Yeah. So yeah, we no mid credit scene yet so far in any of the Marvel movies. They've only been post credit scenes.
Oh yeah.
We get Cap punching a punching bag. He punches it so hard.
Well, it's his introduction in Avengers.
It's a full introduction in the Avengers. Punches it so hard it flies off the thing.
Although in the Avengers it shows he's actually already done this with like 12 of them.
Yeah. And then we get Cap's like, what are you doing here, Fury? You got a mission for me? It's like, yeah.
We'll be back in the world.
Yeah. And then we get the like flash teaser
Just, yes.
trailers, just like loads of sharp cuts.
Epilepsy trailer for all of the action that they could, well, all the action they could show without giving too much away. It was actually a pretty tasteful trailer.
Yeah, it was as like a teaser for Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, at the time this came out, these were still all very separate movies.
Yeah.
Like, they had the little, like, weavings between them, but then you see, like, Robert Downey Jr., like, hits Thor on the arm. You see them all sitting around the table, and, like, as a teaser, it really, really works.
I kind of wish all trailers were like that. Just a bunch of disconnected images. Don't tell me what the plot is.
Yeah.
Don't, like, show me some cool stuff, but not the coolest stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why I go to the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good. I remember seeing that. Like, I remember seeing that back when I saw Cat for the first time, and it was amazing. It was like when it actually, because it was something. Like, movies don't do that, right? And the only other time I remember a movie doing that before, like, I know all the Marvel movies do that now, but before that was The Matrix Reloaded. Because they shot Reloaded and Revolutions together,
yeah.
They actually had footage from Revolutions at the end of Reloaded if you stayed at the end of the trailers, which was incredible. Because, like, it's something that we were actually... Because the only reason I saw that, because I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
Me and a friend of mine saw it in the Savoy, and we were sitting there, and we were just talking about, like, that movie sucked. Like, it was like, well, not that it sucked, like, we enjoyed it, but it was like, what was... There was so much to unpack that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. The movie itself is good. There's just some very weird scenes in it.
Yeah, and so we were sitting there talking about those scenes, and then, when unbeknownst to us, like, the trailer's finished, or not the trailer, the credits finished, and then this scenes from the Matrix Revolutions came up. We're like, what the... What? And that's when I first saw the first post-credit scene in a Marvel movie, that's what it brought me back to. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like just...
Now it's normal.
Like a chore. Like,
you have to...
The movie's over, and I have to look at all these names that, like, yeah, thank you for making the movie, but honestly, I don't care who made Robert Downey Jr.'s lunch. Like, it's not relevant. I'm sorry if the person who makes his lunch ever hears this. Jesus Christ. I didn't mean it. Oh, okay, I'm going to stop.
Now I do, like, when a Marvel movie ends, now I do go, how many post-credit scenes are there? To see if there's one at the very end or just, like, a mid-roll scene.
Or, like, is there any way I could just watch it on YouTube right now before the credits end?
So, yeah, I do feel the same way. It's like, there's going to be a scene. I have to stay here.
Yeah.
I am excited for the scene. But it's still like...
It's part of the movie more than like a special treat.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's become normalized.
And also, they've become... Like, with each progressive post-credit scene, there's been less and less in them. Like, so there's been less... Like, they reveal less. There's less kind of... There's less of, like, a surprise or whatever. Like, it used to be that each one was something...
Would lead, like, properly tied the films together.
Yeah. Or would kind of, like, give you something that if you didn't see it, it might matter. You know? Like, this would be something... Like the Eric Selvig scene at the end of Thor.
Yeah.
If you hadn't seen that, when the Avengers happens, you wouldn't have any context for any of that.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, it's like... But now it feels like... What was the post-credit scene in Guardians of the Galaxy was just like the... What's his name sitting... the collector just sitting in his ruined collection place
with Howard the Duck.
It's like, that's great that you put Howard the Duck in a movie, but like nobody cares about him except for how ironically he had a movie once. Like, I don't know. It's like, I still like it. I guess it's like a little bit extra for every movie. But I would prefer if they went back to that, the more kind of, oh my god, Eric Selvig's a bad guy, or Eric Selvig's under the control of a bad guy. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, more like actual, like, information. So yeah, I guess that's us done. Saturated Industry Podcast episode 6, 7, because we've got the lost one.
Oh no, they're all written.
Oh yeah, so 6, yeah.
6. 1, 2, 3. Oh right, Last Jedi.
Just Last Jedi, yeah.
Last Jedi. Probably put that above most of them. See you next time.